You made the decision. You wrote the first few pages, maybe the first few thousand words. Then the initial rush faded, and the same excuses that used to sound reasonable started sounding reasonable again. That's not a sign you picked the wrong project. It's the point in every novel where motivation runs out and something else has to take over. This lesson covers 6 ways to keep going once the beginning stops feeling exciting. Word count is a terrible measure of whether you showed up today. On a good day, it works fine. On a bad day, it turns a 50-word session into a failure, and failure is what makes people quit. Redefine the win. Did you open the document and add anything to it, even one sentence? That's a session. That's a check mark. The goal on a hard day isn't progress, it's continuity, because continuity is what gets you to the easier days on the other side. Set a minimum so small it feels almost silly. 1 paragraph, 10 minutes, 100 words. Not because that's all you're capable of, but because a bar that low removes the excuse not to start. Most days, once you're in the document, you'll write more than the minimum. On the days you don't, you still met the actual goal and the streak survives. Ambitious daily targets look motivating in theory and get abandoned by week 2 in practice. Motivation was never going to show up reliably enough to build a novel on. Treat writing like brushing your teeth, not something you feel inspired to do, just something you do on schedule, regardless of mood. The paradox is that motivation tends to follow action, not precede it. Most writers don't feel like writing before a session, and do feel glad they wrote after one. Sit down first. Let the feeling catch up. Willpower is a limited resource that runs out by mid-afternoon. A fixed anchor doesn't. Attach your writing session to something that already happens every day without negotiation, right after coffee, on the commute, the 10 minutes after the kids are in bed. The anchor does the remembering, so your motivation doesn't have to. Pick one and protect it the way you'd protect any other standing appointment you didn't want to miss. Keep a visible record, a calendar you mark, a chain you don't want to break, a tracker on the wall. The point isn't the data, it's the discomfort of looking at a gap. A visible streak makes skipping a day feel like a loss, not a neutral non-event, and that small emotional nudge is often the difference between missing 1 day and quietly missing 3 weeks. Make your progress something you'd have to actively look away from. Somewhere around week 3 or 4, most writers hit a flat stretch where the project feels boring and the outcome feels uncertain. This isn't a sign to quit, it's a predictable, well-documented part of the process, and knowing it's coming takes away its power to surprise you into stopping. Decide your minimum viable session for a slump week before you're in one. A pre-made plan is easier to follow than a decision made in the middle of low motivation. Momentum isn't a feeling you wait for, it's a structure you build. A low bar, an anchor, a visible streak, and a plan for the slump before it arrives. If you want a hand building that structure, the free premise worksheet and weekly planner are linked below. Subscribe to the Story Forge for a new lesson on fiction craft and storytelling every week.